Greetings, everybody. Welcome to the course in the religions of the world and the Golden Rule. I am making this assumption that you probably know what the Golden Rule is. Do unto others or do to others what you would like others do to you. Well, it's a very simple phrase, it's a very simple rule that really came from the New Testament, one of the teachings of Jesus. But we have really adopted this in the Arizona Interfaith Movement as a way of uh, condensing in very simple terms the ethics of the various religions of the world. And so today we start this lecture series about the religions of the world and the Golden Rule. And we are focusing primarily today about primal or indigenous religions. You know, when people were kind of wondering what things are all about, how things become what they are, where are we from, where are we going. This note of wonder, of questioning, really inspired people to create certain belief systems, explanations before the onslaught of various ideas and we have to thank these people who have the imagination and the capacity to tell stories. And so the original religions and the belief systems emanated from stories. And they were not written in books. They were stories told from one generation to another. So a lot of our religious teachings really originated from stories, and they are passed on, transmitted from one generation to another. So it is through storytelling. And these stories gave people insights as to where we came from, where we are going. And so in this course, Religions of the World, when we talk about primal or indigenous religions, these are the very, very first musings about the spirit, something that people do not see, but something that they felt, something that is within their gut feeling. And so one thing that really struck me is that here in the state of Arizona, we have 22 Indian tribes or Native American tribes just here in the state of Arizona alone. And we are so thankful that their traditions and their customs still live, and they really have had quite an impact on us. Listen to this. Do not wrong or hate your neighbor, for this is not who you wrong, but yourself. Do you know where that's from? That's from the Pima Indians here in Arizona. And then, if we go up north, the hurt of one is the hurt of all. The honor of one is the honor of all. And so this is one of the sayings from the First Nations in what we know now as the country of Canada. And then let me pick one more from the Lakota Plain Indians. Great Spirit, help me to never judge my neighbor until I have walked a mile in his or her moccasins. And so all these musings about spirit, about the origins of the world, and about the future were captured by the primal or indigenous religions, and those are the fundamental basis and the foundation of all the religions that we are going to study in the next 8 weeks. So in your study guide, I put in a number of terms that we need to study or somehow understand. Now, when we study all these religions, my aim is not to convert you or for you to adopt those religions. No, the aim is for us to understand, for us to have a way of communicating and reaching out. So the mission of the Arizona Interfaith Movement is that of building bridges of understanding. And those bridges of understanding are established by the way we know And by the way we know, the way we learn about the person we are dealing with. And it's not only knowing in terms of cognitive learning, but it's also knowing in terms of interacting, having the opportunity to appreciate the goodness or the things that are good and wise and really useful for us to carry out our day-to-day lives. And so the fundamental origin of these religions might be called animism. It's not about animals. It's about the word anima, which means spirit. And so these belief systems emanated from the thought that our life here is not just us, but it is the spirit. And there are spirits that are operating and then working and interacting with us. Now, in all of these religions, there are stories. So, in the study of religions, we call them myths. Now, we call them myth not because they are not true or they are just made up. We call them myth because we learn fundamental truth from those stories. Stories are very powerful. And to learn principles, we are taken to a journey of a story. And from those, we learn not only the story, we also learn about values, morals, ethics, what to do, what not to do. So, in the study of all these myths, we learn about good behavior and values, what is important to one person, what is sacred. And we also learn about things that are allowed in society, things that are not allowed or scoffed upon. And there are certain rules or fundamental teachings for which there are also sanctions. And so when we look at all these various religions, we have the conception of God. Now, the conception of God is very important because we have this notion of all-powerful and all-knowing, yet we do not see or kind of interact just with this God directly as a human person. And so beliefs about God might be a belief in one God or a belief in many gods, and so there is monotheism and there is polytheism. There's also belief that God is in everything. It's called pantheism. Now, some people are averse to the belief of God, and that might be called atheism. And some people are standing and thinking and still evaluating information, and they are in a doubt in their thinking, and so we might call that agnosticism. Now, not all religions have a concept of God. Now, in religious studies, we call this idea non-theism. And we are going to at least deal with one religion in this series that is non-theistic, meaning that they do not have the conception of an all-powerful, all-knowing God that I just talked about, or they believe in the eternality, the never-ending notion of the world. Now, talking about never-ending, various religions have different concepts of time. So in your study guide, you have religions that are linear in the sense that it's a line, and the story or history is marked out in a line. So there's a period of creation, and there is a period of destruction. And when you think of linear, you think of the calendar system that we have. It's the year 2024. And so that has some religious significance. Or we might say that it is so many years after the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, moved from Mecca to Medina. And so we count by that linear time. And so we count the years. Now, there is also a concept called cyclical time. And in this notion of time in religious studies, we are looking at religions that come in a cycle. A very simple explanation or example might be the seasons: winter, spring, summer, fall. And then again, there's the repetition of winter, spring, summer, fall. So it's a cycle. But you have to look at one aspect of our life also being a cycle. And so in this cycle of birth, coming of age, adulthood, and then old age, and then death, these marking points of life are also celebrated in terms of religious ritual or ceremonies, which are called rites of passage. And so we have an example of baptism. We have an example of a wedding. We have an example of quinceañera, or we have an example of bar mitzvah or bat mitzvah in terms of coming of age. And so all these practices are what we might call rituals or ceremonies, which we are going to study as part of all the religions of the world. Now, why are rituals important? Well, rituals are important in the sense of marking off points, creating significant milestones from one stage to another. And in marking those points, emphasizing what the duties are, what the stories are, what responsibilities are, and marking off points in terms of values and morals and ethics in all those belief systems and ceremonies. And so for this season, we are going to study Asian religions. And we are going to discuss Hinduism, we will discuss Sikhism, Jainism, Buddhism, and of course Confucianism and Taoism. And for the next 8 weeks, we are going to kind of focus on each religion. And how they express the Golden Rule. So each week, I am going to send you a study guide. Now, the study guide is something that will help you understand or at least look at the terms that will help you understand particular religions. Now, in the study guide, there might be certain things that we cannot cover here in class, and so it will be up to you. It will be voluntary for you to find out exactly and probably retrace some videos. And feel free to ask me questions the following meeting in terms of what was not clear to you or a follow-up. Now, also, during this particular time, we are going to have a field trip of sorts, a cultural heritage tour. And we're going to visit 3 houses of worship. The first being Hindu, so we're going to the Hindu temple here in Phoenix. And then, the following after that, we're going to visit the Sikh Gurdwara, the very first temple or house of worship of the Sikhs. And then lastly, we're going to visit the center of the Soka Gakkai International. It's a Buddhist sect or an aspect of Buddhism where they chant the Nam-myoho Renge Kyo, and we are going to visit those 3 places. Hopefully, if you combine the cultural heritage tour and then the study of all religions in the next 3 months, we're going to have a better understanding. And so the hope and the mission of the Arizona Interfaith Movement is for us to have greater knowledge, understanding, not only of the belief systems and concepts, but also of each other, so that we can build bridges and then promote peace and promote civility and kindness towards one another. It's very important that in this world today, where there is a lot of strife and conflict, that we focus on things that would help us keep peace between and among us. And then, of course, when we keep peace between and among us, our civilization and our culture will flourish. And so I would like to see you in the next meeting, and that will be about Hinduism. Thank you, and a very happy journey in our study of religions and the Golden Rule.